Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I couldn't fly out, but I have to say I'm glad I missed the snowstorm. My name again is Nikki Fortunato. I'm the director of the Partnership for Working Families, and I'm excited to talk with you today about the strategies that we use around procurement and economic development. I am just going to transition into my slideshow so I can share that with you as I'm doing the presentation. So this may take just a second. And let me know what you're able to see. Okay, it looks like it's working. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I want to talk very briefly about the Partnership for Working Families. As cities grow and change, the Partnership for Working Families works to make sure that our communities have a voice in their future so that everyone has access to jobs with dignity and can raise their family with a healthy, sustainable community. We have 17 powerful city affiliates, which you can see on this map, that bring grassroots voices to the forefront in the workplace, community, and ballot box to build power and work towards economic prosperity, climate justice, and racial justice. And so together as a national network, we are driving a progressive agenda to harness the power of cities and influence billions of dollars in public and private investment. In our powerful coalitions of community groups, labor unions, faith networks, and environmental organizations wage winning campaigns that organize our communities and partner with progressive leaders like all of you to craft and win innovative policies. So over the course of several decades, we have developed and innovated the community benefits model across dozens of cities. And I'm sure many of you know what community benefits are, but just to get us on the same page, these are assets available through economic development that meet real community needs. And our vision for development starts by engaging our community in what we all need. And so when we go through this process, oftentimes it's about creating more good jobs and better access to them. It's also about addressing housing needs, environmental concerns, improving community service, and also creating opportunities for small businesses to flourish. And this model really centers around community engagement, organizing, and coalition building to develop policies that attach accountability to public spending and deliver concrete benefits to our communities. And there are a range of community benefit strategies that we can leverage in public investment that turn procurement into an economic development strategy. And when you think about how much local government spends on procurement, it's a really powerful tool. In 2014, local government at the city and county level spent about $1.6 trillion. And we've been using a number of strategies around procurement. The first is around construction, both public works as well as subsidized construction. So some of the tools that I'm sure you're already familiar with include project labor agreements. And these are legally binding agreements between the building trades unions, a developer, a prime contractor, and sometimes the local government. And this agreement sets out the terms governing work on a construction project that can include wages and benefits, hiring, safety, and dispute resolution. Another tool that's related is the Community Workforce Agreement, and that's basically a project labor agreement that includes targeting hiring provisions, and typically also some other strong job quality provisions. And some of these other job quality standards can include things like prevailing wage or apprenticeship utilization. And then another tool in the construction category is targeted hire. So these are programs that promote the hiring of individuals who meet certain criteria. And these are often geographic or socioeconomic. They provide greater job access and opportunity to groups that could include women, people of color, at-risk youth, veterans, workers with a criminal record, or public assistance recipients, for example. There's another range of tools that we use around economic development. This includes community benefits agreements. So this is an agreement between a community coalition, a developer, and sometimes a local government that will provide a range of community benefits at the project. And then there are more and more city or agency policies that govern public subsidy. Some examples of this, I know that there are colleagues in the room from LA and Seattle. You may be talking about this later. This includes the LA Metro Transit Authority's Construction Careers Program or Seattle's Priority Local Hire Ordinance. And then finally, there's also targeted and first source hire. So this system really recognizes that a good first source referral system creates a pipeline of qualified workers from the target area that's really prepared to meet the needs and demands of the project. And then another category that we leverage around procurement includes looking at the sectors that have key relationships with the city. So these can include airports, our seaports, utilities, waste and recycling, transit and hospitality. And some of the specific tools that we've used in these areas include living wage policies, worker retention policies, or so-called ban-the-box policies that create a more level playing field for people with criminal records. And I just want to share 2 examples to dig deeper into these types of tools. I'm from Oakland, and prior to working at the partnership, I spent 8 years leading our local affiliate called the East Bay Alliance for a Sustainable Economy in the East Bay in Oakland, California, and we won a pretty groundbreaking community jobs agreement for the redevelopment of our Army base. And that Army base was about 1,300 acres. It was a huge opportunity to create desperately needed jobs. And the site is currently becoming a trade and logistics center to service our port. It's a $1 billion project with half of that budget coming from taxpayer dollars. And very early on, we as a coalition realized that there were ways for us to be involved. And so very early on, we were involved in the land use planning process. And so we were able to work with our city to insert community benefit standards into the request for qualifications and then the request for proposals. And there ended up being a community benefits term sheet side by side with the real estate term sheet, where the RFQ and the RFP asked about local hiring, quality jobs, small business utilization, and healthy neighborhoods. So it really sort of set the framework early on for the type of development that this could be in the community. And what was at stake was about 3,000 construction and permanent operating jobs. Local hire together with Ban the Box were the fundamental goals that we were trying to achieve to create equity in the community. For those of you who may not be familiar with Oakland, in neighborhoods that are predominantly residents of color, the unemployment rate is as high as 35 to 45%. Informally incarcerated individuals in Oakland are estimated to have an unemployment rate of about 60 to 70%. So the youth, the pastors in our coalition, they really knew that giving members of our community with criminal records a real chance at getting jobs at this site by winning Ban the Box for the jobs under development, that was a really huge priority. And there was a multi-year campaign. As you can imagine, the development process took some time. And it was a great process, not only engaging the community, but also with real leadership from members of our local government. So there was a city council member in particular who held a year-long stakeholder process that really enabled the community to come to consensus about the types of benefits we hope to see from the jobs that would be created by this project. We also worked with both our mayor and the city manager to negotiate the development agreement. And then ultimately the coalition won this list of things that you see on the screen here for all of the construction as well as the permanent jobs. So as you can see, 50% local hire, 25% of those jobs going to disadvantaged workers, a 20% apprentice utilization rate, living wages for all the jobs, ban the box to level the playing field for people with criminal records, and then restrictions on the use of temp work. And this was very important because the site is becoming a trade and logistics center where in the warehouse industry, there's a lot of abuse of workers through the use of long-term temps. And so we were able to really get ahead of that by setting these policies. And then a very important piece of this work is really the follow-up and the implementation. And so there are two pieces of this agreement that create concrete mechanisms for implementation and enforcement. The first is a job resource center that's funded through project revenue. So there's a site in West Oakland, the part of the community that's right next to this project, that is really the sort of the heart of connecting the community to the jobs on the site, to services that will get them ready for jobs, as well as to employers. And then the other piece is a community oversight board where the community coalition and other stakeholders have seats on that board. And we're only 2 years into development of this project, but already it's been successful in terms of complying with this agreement. Oakland workers have taken home, as you can see on the slide, $8.25 million, or 73% of the total worker earnings on the project. So we've exceeded our 50% local hire goal. And then the other case I wanted to share is the Santa Clara County living wage. This was run in December of 2014, and our coalition in San Jose called Working Partnerships USA. An example is the Santa Clara County Living Wage Ordinance, which was passed in December 2014. So we have an affiliate in Silicon Valley called Working Partnerships USA, and they realized that the county has a really big job footprint. There are 17,000 workers who are directly employed by the county, and then the county spends about $2.2 billion every year on contracts. Yet, at the time, before this policy was passed, about 1 in 3 workers earn too little to pay for basic necessities. And so when this policy passed, and it's one of the most comprehensive living wage policies in the country, they were able to create a set of policies that would help lift up the conditions of the workers that work for the county, as well as the conditions of workers who work with the county through county contracts. So some key pieces of the policy include fair compensation. So there's a living wage rate of $19.06 per hour that increases with the cost of living, with incentives for employer-paid health insurance and retirement. There's also paid sick and paid jury duty. Also very important for the workers at the time, and still a very important issue in the county and around the country, is this theme of a fair work week. So the policy makes sure that there's access to increased work hours for part-timers and flexible yet predictable schedules that allow workers to plan their lives. So the predictability really helps for workers who need to think about childcare, a second job, or going to school. There's an equal opportunity provision, so similar to what I was talking about earlier with the Army base, there's a provision for ban the box, so really ensuring there's a fair chance at these jobs for formerly incarcerated workers, as well as for local residents and disadvantaged workers like veterans, former foster youth, and public benefit recipients. And then finally, the fourth piece of the policy is a voice at work, so protection from retaliation against workers who exercise their rights. And then lastly, I do welcome you to take a look at our website. There are a number of publications that we've produced that I think could be useful if you haven't already seen them. The first one is a guide for elected and appointed officials about community benefits. And I believe that's part of the flash drive that you all have. And then there's numerous other publications that are on our website. And feel free to also contact us and follow our work through Facebook and Twitter, and let us know how we can be useful. We do work with cities all around country, not just the ones, not just our 17 affiliates, but really are trying to popularize this idea of community benefits and using procurement as an economic development strategy. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you. If you want to hold on.